Hi guys, Howard again. I was looking along my camera shelves the other day and noticed my old Ricoh 500. I checked on YouTube and realised there's fairly minimal coverage of this camera, so I thought, why not? After all, it is an interesting and quirky old camera. The 500 series ran from 1957 to 1960 and followed on from the 35S. Ricoh appeared to bring out a cluster of cameras during that period, and my model is the second of four 500 series cameras. With a Seikosa MXL shutter, it lacks the self-timer of the next model, but that's no great loss, as a lot of this type of self-timer caused issues in later years. Shutter speeds are B and 1 second to 1/500th of a second, using the older spacing of 1 second, 1/2, 1/5, 1/10, 1/25th, 1/50th, 1/100th, 1/250th, and 1/500th, rather than the later and much improved system of 1 second, 1/2, 1/4, 1/8, 1/15th, 1/30th, 1/60th, 1/125th, 1/250th, and 1/500th, which, unlike the older system, are all one stop apart. The shutter also incorporates a linked EV scale, a very early adoption of this, at the time, new system. The lens is a Ricoh matte 45mm f2.8, 5 elements in 4 groups and made for Ricoh by Tomioka. The camera is rather pretty with its flat top plate and highly chromed lens barrel, and has survived its 67 years very well. It's a very well-built camera and has a real quality feel to it. It was originally advertised as a sports camera, probably because of the trigger system film advance and the 2 focusing handles. And I suppose at that time it was probably a reasonable claim. Okay, let's have a look at it. Starting on the front, we've got the name Ricoh, the rangefinder and viewfinder windows, and the PC port for the flash lead. We've got the 2 focusing handles here, so whichever way you like to do it, there's something to grab hold of to focus it, which is always nice. And down here, as you can see, we've got the Ricoh matte f2.8 45mm lens. Okay, I'll go around to the top. Now the rewind knob is very standard. It just lifts up. There's no little arrow to indicate, but you always rewind clockwise. It doesn't pull up to open the back or anything as the back comes off, so it's a separate system altogether. Once again, we've got the name Ricoh 500. Got the shutter button, and down in there there's a thread that a Leica type cable release can screw onto to use a cable release with this camera. We've got a film frame counter over here, which resets to 0 automatically when you remove the back. We've got a serial number, the film plane, and a single pin hot shoe, which would have taken a whole range of different flashes back in the day. Now, it gets a bit trickier when we get to the barrel here because it's very shiny and can be a little bit hard to see. But back here, we've got back this point, that's the depth of field scale around there. Then we've got the distance scale from 3 feet, just under 3 feet, around to infinity. Next one, as you can see, there's a ring. Now that changes the aperture, which is in a little window there, and it's stopped every half stop. So it goes from 2.8 all the way around to f22, and as I say, they half click stops. Now in front of that, we've got the EV scale here in red lettering. So we've got from 3 around here to 17 around on the far end. I hope you can see that. So 3 to 17. And then in front of that, we've got the speeds. So once again, from B and then 1 second through to 1/500th, using the old spacing system. Now, obviously, if you've got a standard light meter, you simply pick the speed and the aperture, and you just run with that. But if you happen to have one of the light meters that used an EV scale, then you, once again, you set your speed where you want it. But if you read off the scale, say 14 or something, you move this little red mark and red arrow around onto the 14, and it will select the aperture, which in this case it's saying is 11. So that's how that works. As you can see, there's a red arrow here pointing to the speed. Now this was in the day of flash bulbs as well, of course. So around here we've got a little tab that moves, a little red tab moves up and down. Now back in these days there were different types of flashes that required different delays. So we've got X for electronic, and then we've got what's that, F and M for two different speed flash delays. So this is back in the early days, this camera. Okay, on the back of the camera we've got the viewfinder. Now the viewfinder is very clear, the rangefinder square is very bright, and the rangefinder and everything works really well. But the problem with this is if you wear glasses and try to use this eyepiece, it's simply too small, and you won't see the whole frame. I mean, you can move your head around and sort of see where the sides and the top and bottom are, but it's certainly not ideal. And because the whole back comes off on this, to rewind the film, you have to hold this little knob across towards the as you rewind the film. You've got to hold it there the whole time. Yeah. Oh, I might mention that the fourth model of this apparently had a bigger viewfinder with a bright frame, and a much bigger viewfinder. So if you had glasses, the fourth one would be the one to get. Okay, let's get on the bottom because this gets interesting here. This is where its quirkiness comes in. As you can see, there's two red dots around currently against the C's for closed. We rotate them around to open, lift up, and the whole back comes off. And we've got Ricoh Optical and some Industries Limited there, proud of their product. Anyhow, I'll put that aside for a moment. Okay, so on the right here, apart from opening and shutting the camera, we've got a standard tripod mount, unfortunately off to one end, but still with the design of the camera, they didn't have too much choice on that. Over here we've got a ASA reminder and a colour film reminder things there. So it's purely a reminder. It doesn't affect the camera in any way. And of course here we've got the trigger wind and the little pin that it stops up against. Now how that all works, if we look in here, you'll see down here there's a screw head and a mechanism here that links into the camera. So as you cock it, you can see them rotating. Down in here there's a chain of gears that link together. So you know it's got about 3 gears in there that link from there through to here, and that goes up and links into the camera via a little edge of a spring that's sticking up. And when you put the back on, that spring locks in to this edge here. So as you can see, by turning that, you cock the camera. Now Canonet used this in their very first Canonet model, a similar system to this, but this predates that quite comprehensively because that was 1961 when Canon did it. And I'll just put the back on. Inside here, everything else is pretty standard as far as loading the film is concerned. So put that there. Lock both of these. Now the reason for this was, the theory was it was faster than one up on the top, but I'm not sure that that's the case. I mean, it is reasonably quick, but I don't know if that's the case at all. But anyhow, it made for an interesting camera and a bit different. So what more can I say? I mean, basically, it's a very well-built camera. I've got to be honest, I've never put a film through this, but I know a guy who owned one of these years ago, and he loved it. And with the lens being made by Tomioka, who were one of the better lens manufacturers at the time, I would expect it to take very nice photos. So, well, look, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please like and subscribe. It sort of helps the channel. And signing off from the Ricoh 500. Thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.